batteries too.
Well, there we go. So we are improvising today then, Stephan. Well, welcome. Your electricity has gone off and you have no internet or anything and you're running on batteries. So anyway, let's see. Thank you for joining. So we today we're joined by the hackathon crew, who I think we can see here. Hello. This is part of the London Hackathon, and these are some of the events that we're running on kind of like a monthly basis at the moment. And Stephan, you've been working with us as well to define the kind of things we can do, but also you've been working on V8 kind of full time now with Shannon. And I know you shared a lot at Code Garden, but I just thought this would be a great opportunity for us to share kind of what you've been doing, what's changed, what we're working on as part of the hackathons, how V8's coming along.
Yep, you want me to do that right now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, we mentioned V8 a lot at Code Garden. Just to go back a bit in time, before Code Garden, we restarted the whole V8 effort like 3 or 4 months before. Are you?
Yep, yeah, we're all good.
And we worked hard on variants, making sure that for Code Garden we could demo a working version of variants like multilingual, etc. And we had a nice code base at very low level, like the database structure, etc. So it's not hacking variants into core; it's doing things the right way. Then we had Code Garden, where we presented all this, and then we had, after Code Garden, we had to like clean up what we did. Like the top level layer of variants, the UI, etc., was rushed before Code Garden, just to show that the APIs underneath were working.
Yeah.
And then we discovered that some of these APIs might need to be slightly refactored, and then that the whole UI was I don't know if you have tried it, and it sort of works, but it's clearly not finished. So what we've been doing since Code Garden is we've cleaned up the variants APIs so that they are way simpler and cleaner now, based on what we learned. And then we started working on cleaning up also the UI based on what we knew we had to do and all the discussions we had during Code Garden about what's important, not important, how it should work, etc. Due to holidays, like Shannon is briefly not here, I can't demo what he's done, but we basically have side-by-side editing of multiple languages working at the same time. So this is almost working now. The PR needs to be merged, but it's basically done. So you can say I'm editing English, and then I want to edit German in a side window, and then you have the two side by side, which is super cool for translations and things like that.
So this is this kind of side by side editing that's coming in V8, this new feature.
Yeah, definitely. The idea is that, well, when you edit one document, you can edit one language. Like you select at the top, you have a drop down where you can say, I'm editing English. And then you say, okay, now I want to edit French. And what most people then ask is, how can I see both? Because I want to copy paste, and I'm a translator, and I want to go from one to the other, etc. So that's what we're providing. It's a way to open two languages at the same time, side by side.
Awesome. Yeah. And so you say that's being worked on kind of actively, or it's in a pull request. So we'll see that in the V8 source very soon, I guess.
It's in the tree somewhere, but in a branch. The branch is in a like review state, and I think we're talking August sometime. It's basically the time where Shannon and I can be around at the same time and discuss about it. Shannon is away this week. We both are here next week, so it could be next week. Like if it's really a matter of reviewing the whole thing and then releasing this.
Awesome.
It also enables you to do something that was not possible at Code Garden, which is edit multiple cultures at the same time. So today in V8, you edit French, you have to save or publish or do something, and then you go to English, you change it, etc., etc. With the changes, you can basically change a word in French and then say, oh, show me English, I'm also changing this. And then in the end, you say, save everything, which is how it was meant to work from the beginning, but not what we had at Code Garden.
Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. In fact, I have V8 running, so maybe just so we can demonstrate exactly what we're talking about here. I don't have obviously the infinite, sorry, the side-by-side editing or anything like that, but I do have the back office running, and I do have variants in here. So just maybe to kind of
if you stop here, when you can you open the drop down again?
Yep.
Here, if you click on another language, so obviously at the moment you only have English, but if you add, maybe for the sake of the demo, it's good to add anything.
French. I can make that
it doesn't have to, then if you go back to your content item, you'll see that you can select one. What happens in the new system is that when you click on the drop down, somewhere on the right, you have an option which is open in a side window. So right now, if you click on French, it will tell you you can also edit English, but it's changing the whole thing. Exactly where you had your cursor, you would have open in another window. And then basically the panel splits into two sides. One is displaying the French version and the other one, the English version.
Awesome. That's really, really cool. So like I just showed here, so I've gone in and I've gone and selected a language. Let's say in this case French, and then I can type France, and I can just type a value, and I can hit publish, and that will then publish or give me a dialog asking me to publish multiple things. So you can have multiple versions of a given piece of content tied to a culture. And you're saying with the new changes Shannon's been working on, I can edit those two things side by side as well.
Yeah, exactly. Side by side and at the same time. So at the moment, if you switch from French to English, it's going to tell you, do you want to discard changes or whatever, because it's basically reloading the whole page to edit English. So you're only editing one variant at a time. With the changes, you're editing the whole document at once. So you can switch between languages and you won't have this discard changes, or do you want to save your changes or whatever. So it will be way more easy to go from one language to the other and back and forth, etc.
Fantastic. That sounds like a really, really nice feature for editors as well. There's been a lot of focus clearly in V8 on making sure that this is nice and usable and still just as powerful as we have right now, and all, kind of with all the new features too. And I know that going forward, there's going to be this idea of segments as well. So slight extension on variants.
It's like another dimension. So if you think about one property, in version 7, one property has one value. In version 8, it can have different values depending on cultures. So you could have the French value, etc. But in reality, it's a matrix. So you can have also segments, like I'm on mobile or desktop or whatever. And I could say I have different values depending if I'm targeting the mobile segment or the desktop segment. Or it could be A/B testing, like I have two titles, the A title and the B title, so I can enter two titles. And then there is some sort of mechanism in the view that's going to pick one or the other. That's the idea of segmentation. Segmentation exists at the low-level APIs. So like a property in Umbraco can have segmented value. That already is done. Like the database supports it. 8.0 is not going to support segment at UI level. The core reason for that is it's very hard to understand what we actually want to do with segments. Like what the UI could become totally unfriendly and horribly complex if we try to do everything. So I think we're going to provide the APIs, and the people who really want segments are probably going to hack things so that it, in a way that's really usable for them. And then we'll see what happens. Like probably some parts of it will merge into core at some point, but doing it at 8.0 would be inventing things that probably no one would use.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this other, like you say, another layer of complexity. There's some big changes coming in V8 already. So introducing all of these at the same time as well is going to be even more complex. Speaking about kind of, you say, oh, yeah, we're working on some of these things. This might be a good time to quickly look at the board that we're using, the Trello board for this hackathon. So we have a backlog of tasks that we've worked with you, Stephan, and Sebastian to define. And some of these things are more discussions. So rollbacks, for example, is a discussion about how we can handle rollbacks with variant content. There's still things that you're yet to define, right?
Right. Well, the whole point about is V8 is to answer needs. Like we were doing multilingual sites, many people are doing multilingual sites, and it made sense to have multilingual support in V8. But then it creates tons of other questions like how do you roll back, how do you do this and that, and this is what we need to deal with now: is how is everything going to work now that you are multilingual. So for some of them, it's indeed discussions. We can invent solutions on our side, but I think it's super important to have feedback from community saying, well, the simple way to do it, or the minimum thing we need would be just this. That would be nice, so that we implement things that really make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And the in terms of implementing things that make lots of sense, there's a lot of changes to the APIs, which you mentioned too. And a lot of this hackathon is about making it make sense for developers, cleaning up the code and refining V8 rather than just kind of adding loads of new features. So it's not all about the editor experience either here.
I think feature-wise, I would say feature-wise, version 8 is defined. We know that what we want to have in version 8, and it's basically, at the moment, it's all about variants, and that's really the massive effort we're having at the moment, is making sure that everything that we broke when doing variants, like schedule publishing, et cetera, is still working. And then we have the code cleanup, but that is well underway. So, and we're not adding more features, or and we are very careful whenever we start thinking about something, stopping ourselves, like, no, we're not going to refactor everything. So V8 is not the last and ultimate Umbraco version. It's just the next iteration. It's going to be way better, but it has to deliver at some point.
Yeah.
So we're clearly variants, and stabilizing where we have. We're not going to add more features. There are tons of things we could do, but I think it's more important to have something that works, like a minimum viable product, as soon as we can.
Yeah, it could end up being a never-ending project if we wanted to try and refactor absolutely every single element or something. But obviously that's not happening. The part of these hackathons are trying to take some of the work off HQ's hands as well. So there may be things that you've wanted to do for a long time but haven't had the time because you've been working on these cool features, but it's something where the community can actually pick up and help you guys out with the kind of longer term goals for the project.
Yeah, it's also a very friendly way for the community to start to, I would say, love the code again. I think many people were hacking Umbraco years ago, and we said, oh, we're going to do V8, and people are like, oh, we're going to wait for HQ to see what they're doing. I see these hackathons as a way to get people back into the code and say, oh, this is not so complicated. It may be actually be simpler than before. Oh, I can do things. So at the moment, we're working on very focused tasks that we propose, saying, can you do this? But I think the hidden goal, I shouldn't say it, but is that people, by doing these tasks, they see the code and they're like, well, I could do something else, and start to bring ideas back into the process.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been I think I would say a noticeable difference in how usable the code base is now, given that it's been restructured a bit. Things are in logical places, they're a bit easier to find, and that makes contributing a hell of a lot easier, or hopefully will longer term. And there's also the big documentation effort now as well. So hopefully with the new changes comes fantastic documentation, which makes it, again, even easier, even better to contribute.
Yeah, that's the hope. The hope is that V8 is, as I said, it's not the final version, but it's the like a kickoff version that would enable people to start create more and more things. And what you said about segments is exactly this. We're going to have the low-level API, and hopefully it's clean enough that people are going to say, oh, I want to use it, and I'm going to improve, and I'm going to do things and submit things. So it's a virtuous cycle. Like we want to bootstrap that effort.
Definitely. Speaking of contributions, so finally this week, Owen has had his pull request merged for the new color picker, which has been going, a big discussion has been going on about this on the issue tracker for quite a while. But with the help of Piana and also with the help of Sebastian and Jan Skovgaard, they've got it ready and it's been merged in. So I think we'll be seeing this new contribution coming up very, very soon, which I'm excited about. That's a V7 thing. So people are still, obviously can still get involved in the V7 project. It's not dead and it won't be dead for a very long time.
No, I think it won't, and we call that the horrible merge or something like that, because we from time to time we merge everything from 7 to 8, and it's not really a merge; it's porting things, but we make sure that nothing is lost in the way. So, of course, if it's a major refactoring, we might not want it in version 7, but typically a property editor is totally fine to do it in version 7, and then it will be merged into V8.
Yeah.
Also, having Sebastian dealing with PRs is a fantastic thing, because we have a shorter review term. Like, you propose a PR, you have someone who can answer to you and review the PR with you and tell you, well, this is wrong, this is correct. So you refine the PR, you may be helped by someone else, and then in the end it gets merged. That's way better than having something somewhere for like a year.
Yeah, definitely. And there's still nothing stopping people working on packages and other things in the meantime too. So it's something I noticed, in fact, I think this is from last Friday, but the fantastic Umco team
Yep.
have been very busy as they have their new stacked content and inner content version 2, and their property list package and their content list package. And they're all up on GitHub now, which is crazy. They've been incredibly busy, but it shows that people are still actively contributing to V7. It's not like a case of just stopping now, waiting for V8.
No, because V7 contributions are not going to be lost, and a large part of their effort is all the thinking and the UI and the understanding the need and figuring out a solution for the need. And then, of course, you have to write some code, but the first effort is not going to be lost. It's a very valuable effort, a very important thing. It takes a lot of time to refine all the details. The day they want to move the package to V8, it's mostly we've moved cheese. Like the APIs have been renamed, things have changed, but we haven't changed Umbraco as a whole. So it's going to be, I call that a dumb effort. Like, you have to take the package and say, okay, I'm going to go file by file, rename methods, reorganize a few things, simplify this and that. But it's dumb because you don't have to think about how should it work, what is it that the user wants, etc., etc. You're just basically cleaning up code. So the effort they're doing at the moment, thinking about customers, what they want, etc., is very important.
Yeah, definitely. I think that leads us quite nicely onto just some other Umbraco news from this week. So I've seen that, well, I think this is unavoidable, but the big HTTPS switch on, switch off, I don't know what you want to even call this, but Chrome from Tuesday, I think, released a new version that officially marks sites without HTTPS as not secure. And obviously, fantastic work by the Umbraco HQ team on Latch for Umbraco Cloud, because you don't have to worry about that anymore, which is really nice. I also saw some of your wonderful colleagues, 2 developers, 2 content editors, and a salesperson have all become certified professionals, which is fantastic. There's been a couple of meetups. So there was Nathan did a talk at the, well, they called it Bug, but I think that's the Belgian group, which you spoke at actually a few weeks ago, right? But this is a Brisbane meetup, which has been happening. And Simona, who was on a couple of weeks ago, has demoed this, or has shown pictures of the kind of touchscreen kiosks powered by Umbraco in the EU Council Visitor Centre that are now installed and live, and that looks really, really awesome. So lots and lots of people doing cool things with the CMS at the moment. Is there anything else? Oh, I was going to mention just conferences. So Chris Houston pointed out on Twitter that it's only 300 days until CodeGarden 19, so we can officially start the countdown. And I guess there'll be more chat there about, I don't know, V8 or other cool things that will be happening. There is 2 conferences coming up very soon, I think, which is the Dutch Festival. Tickets went on sale today. And they've got their early or super early bird prices, which are €75. And then the Umbraco US Festival too. Again, I guess there's going to be a lot of a focus on these events. So in terms of V8 and kind of what's coming up in the CMS. Are you going to any of them, Stephan?
Am I going to which one? Sorry.
Well, just any of the upcoming Umbraco conferences, you know.
There are talks about me going to some of them. Nothing definite now, so it's still part of discussions. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah, trying to share things and get things back from people.
I guess whoever's there from HQ is going to be really, really pushing the great work that you and Shannon and the rest of the core team have been doing on the products over the past few months, especially with V8. Like you say, how much it's evolved since Code Garden is crazy. It's really, really coming together. Yeah,
a lot of things, and it's good that you say Shannon and me and the others. So we're maybe the visible part of the I would say iceberg. We're bringing more and more people working on V8 and helping doing small things or things that, okay, so it's not big architectural changes, so maybe you don't see them, but
yeah, I've noticed
it's more than just
being a bit more active on the issue tracker, I think, or on GitHub pull requests, saying like, oh, I've taken a look at this, so I'm going to review this a bit more.
Yeah, so we're going to, and we're trying to. We have our own, I would say, inner community at HQ, like bring other devs to have some visibility and say, okay, next time, maybe it's not me, but a dev that you don't know that's going to answer your questions. Because, I mean, everyone could have some sort of visibility and they're all doing important things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a couple of HQ members here for the hackathon today, or joining us virtually. So Warren has dialed in, you've dialed in, and Sebastian as well. So. Yep. It's really, really good that, yeah, everyone HQ is really getting involved as much as they can, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I think that's kind of it for the news this week. Do you have anything else you wanted to
add? No, that's cool.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much, Stephan, for joining us, especially considering that you are electricity-less and internet-less.
Well, apparently my laptop is happy for 30 more minutes, so if you want to keep talking.
Fantastic. It's great to see you, Stephan, and we will see everyone else next week for another umbraCoffee when Marcin should be back. Thank you for joining. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.